Okay, we are back with the Marketing Measurement Matters podcast again. Sorry for the small delay here, still figuring out our awesome new setup here. But again, with Tim Kreinkamp this time. Tim Wiegels is not joining us. He's busy in Berlin, I think consulting or giving some talks. So we miss you if you hear this. Looking forward to next time. We have a couple of amazing topics today. So first, we wanted to give a quick news roundup. So there were a couple of topics happening. And then, obviously, dive into the topic of open source MMM software, not solution, but software, and talk about that for a while. But first, before we get into it, do you want to start with the first topic, maybe? The Pymc AI MM agents?
Exactly.
MMM agents?
So as you know, if you've been following this podcast, we love open source MMM packages. I think they're actually really, really good for the industry in driving forward adoption of MMM, educating the users, educating the market. So big shout out to the people from Pymc Labs, Thomas Wiki, Juan, and all the others.
Will, by the way, we had on our podcast before as well.
Podcast guest here as well. So big shout out to you guys. And one thing that they developed recently was an AI agent, basically built on top of Pymc, which I think, it's not live yet. So we've just, like everyone else, we've just seen a short demo video. But it was already really, really cool, really nice actually. And why is this relevant? And in my opinion, obviously, we're not going to outsource the entire work of MMM just yet. And we're going to dive deeper into why this can't be done just yet. But for accessibility, for exploring it, for making it more usable, for making it even more fun, and creating these like, wow, how cool is that type of moments. For that, it's actually really, really nice. So, Janos, what do you think?
Well, just kind of double down on what you're saying. I think what MMM tools, including funnel measurement, to some degree lack is this wow effect. If you look at just simply numbers and are not like maybe seeing the story behind the numbers, that's kind of what I think AI agents might be getting into. So they might be more suitable to really understand dependencies between different dashboards, even between the media planner, scenario planner, between the campaign level performance insights. So that's where I can envision agents working quite well. From what I saw from the Pymc Labs AI MMM agent, it looked pretty amazing, kind of guiding the user through the explorative process. So one example was like, show me the saturation curve of Facebook versus Google. And that's obviously much easier to do than having to click on at least 3 buttons or so to get the results. So I think they are definitely onto something, and also something very well worth exploring for other MMM vendors in that space, I think. Great kudos to the Pymc Labs team. Maybe we get them on the podcast again. That would be great. And then there was another pretty interesting news. Just I think it was published the day before yesterday or yesterday, and that is so when you build a startup in that space, you obviously also follow your competitors or other vendors in that space. And one of those was always Rockerbox, which was I think they had a pretty similar trajectory that compared to us. So they started with a very strong focus on multi-touch attribution, and then also developed some MMM capabilities to account for the loss of display view through signal, so to say. And I think they did an amazing job there. And they have now been acquired by DoubleVerify. So DoubleVerify, it seems like they paid 85 million in cash for Rockerbox. So congrats to Rockerbox. Amazing to see that there's these sort of transactions happening in the space, which is good for the industry overall. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, exactly. I think that's a great validation. So obviously, big shout out to the guys at Rockerbox, guys and girls, and well done. Really hope you enjoy your new life after the acquisition. And it shows for the industry, for everyone else who wants to start a venture in that space, that actually you can make money with marketing measurement. You can have a meaningful exit with a marketing measurement SaaS. So it's a great validation, really, really good for the industry overall. And again, congratulations.
Great. So that was kind of the news roundup. Let's dive into the actual topic of this episode, open source marketing mix modeling software solutions, SaaS, however you want to call it. Let's dive into it and maybe give a broad overview. What kind of solutions are out there? Who was a trailblazer? What is happening at Google's side? There was Lightweight. Now there's Meridian. How do you what are the players there, and what solutions do you know about, or what software packages do you know about? And then let's take it step by step. Obviously, also talking about advantages and disadvantages of these approaches.
Yeah. So thanks for the intro, Janos. And basically, when we talk about open source MMM packages, we talk about software that is specifically tailored to marketing mix modeling. So as most of you know, a lot of these statistical algorithms that we use to do marketing mix modeling, those have always been open source and will always be open source. So packages like scikit-learn, like GLMnet in R, like even stuff like Facebook Profit, Pymc, whatever, those have always been open source packages. But they can basically form the building blocks to an MMM or be used for something entirely different. Now, that is just standard open source statistical software. Now, when we talk about open source MMM software, we mean software that's specifically packaged on basically built up out of other open source packages with the goal to specifically solve the MMM challenge. And for that, we have Robyn, of course, which we've discussed extensively on this show. So we're not going to do that again just now.
We also had Gufeng, the father of Robyn.
Exactly.
On the show. Yeah.
We had Gufeng, we had Iggy, also from Meta. So now we're going to focus more on that's the R world mainly. Now we focus more on the Python world, where there is Pymc-Marketing, which we talked about earlier, that is built on Pymc, which is a general purpose Bayesian modeling framework, or probabilistic programming language, as they call it. And that's in Python. And then there used to be Lightweight from Google, which was an unofficial, or still is an unofficial package, I think, maintained by people at Google. And now we have Meridian.
What does unofficial mean in that regard? Like
I'm not sure
use
what
at
that
your
means.
own risk or not validated?
I mean, open source is always used at your own risk.
Yeah.
But I think they actually have like a product marketing team working on Meridian. So not only developers, but also marketing people, product people, project managers, whatever. There's quite a few people working on that, I think, within Google, full time. So that has been released now, widely anticipated. Also based on a Bayesian framework. I'm not sure what the probabilistic programming language in the back is. I think it's based on JAX and NumPy, but I would have to look that up. So it's similar to Pymc in the sense that it's also a Bayesian framework. I think both of them are kind of in spirit descendant from this seminal Google paper, Bayesian methods for marketing mix modeling with carryover and shape effects. Going to post the link in the comments. But why are they relevant? And I think the question of this podcast was, can you just download one of them and then not worry about marketing mix modeling anymore? Spoiler alert, that's not the case. But still, they're really, really useful. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Of course, you can use one of those packages, but there are quite a few things that go beyond modeling if you really, truly want to reap the benefits of a marketing mix model.
Yeah.
Janos, since you also interact with a lot of customers, a lot of leads, a lot of prospects, maybe from your perspective, what are the main challenges that you need to solve when you really want to reap the benefits of marketing mix modeling?
Well, there are a couple, but just because I don't want to forget that question. Was there ever an open source tool or solution software package for data-driven multi-touch attribution?
Well, there have been a few GitHub repositories of people implementing some papers. So there were some papers based on LSTMs with attention, but there never was something really, I think, I mean, I haven't checked in a while now, but I don't think there ever was something that you could just pip install and then be done with it.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, obviously it's interesting why there are these big ad platforms now coming up with the open source platforms, and the only other significant vendor in that space being Pymc Labs next to Meta and Google. But coming back to your question, so I mean the short answer is maybe we in the sales discussion, we love to hear if somebody tried out working with either Pymc or Meridian or Meta, Robyn, because then we know they have understood why MMM is useful. What we often hear, a lot of our clients have actually done the first steps with Robyn, but what they often realize is that the difficult thing is not necessarily downloading the open source software and creating one MMM that produces some results. The difficulty is really productionizing it and kind of getting the whole data ETL flow right, consolidating the data. As you know, I always like to say the 80%. Oh, it's not only based on my experience, of course, but there's a saying in data science projects: you spend 80% of the time, loading, transforming the data, getting it into a place where you can even start with the statistical modeling. So that's the 20% are literally solved by Meridian and Robyn in that case, and the 80% of getting the data right is still a huge challenge that you even have to solve if you want to just download Robyn or Meta's or Google's Meridian and work with it. So I think that's what we at least hear a lot from these sales conversations. And for us, I would say if in sales or in revenue teams, you always have this ICP concept, meaning that's what's your ideal customer profile, and we obviously have one for funnel measurement. But I would like to add to that, it's good if they already tried out Robyn or Meridian.
So what we often see is that they tried it out, and that was successful or not, depends really. But what happens is that these packages, of course, it's just a software package, so you still have to use it. You have to have someone who is capable in either Python or R if you want to use Robyn, and then what you're going to do is you're going to run that. You gather all that data. That takes a lot of time, as Janusz said.
I mean, you can use cursor, and then it just tells you how to.
But that doesn't solve the data collection problem still. So you gather all the data. Let's say you spend quite a bit of time with that, and then you run a model, and then it gives you some results. So now what are you going to do? What is maybe a bit more unique to marketing mix modeling than to other machine learning projects is that now actually the fun starts. Now you have to start to validate the model and actually make sure that the conclusions that you draw from the model, they're actually based on causality, not based on correlations. And only to a certain extent, those packages can help you with that. So you need some domain expertise to actually do the validation. You need marketing expertise, but also statistical knowledge and with statistical causality, machine learning, econometrics expertise. In order to actually make sense of the results, validate them, and possibly tweak them. So I don't think there has ever been a marketing mix modeling project where the first model run was in any way satisfactory for stakeholders. So often what happens is that you see the results, you see some quirks and there's some flaws. You need to go back to the drawing board. You need to restart the data collection process. You need to find some additional variables, whatever. That is not something that those packages will do for you, that you have to do yourself. But it's still great that you have the package, because otherwise you would spend a lot of time implementing stuff like saturation, ad stock, and so on and so forth, implementing that from scratch. So you save that time, that is great. And you can spend more time validating the model, adding your domain expertise, all of that, right? And then actually, then you can start thinking about presenting the results to stakeholders, which is going to take a lot more time again. So if you really want to reap the benefits of marketing mix modeling, it is actually an entire value chain, which goes from getting the data, collecting it, cleaning it, running the model, validating it, running it again, validating it again, and so on and so forth, and then presenting the results to the stakeholder. And if you get a SaaS solution, the presenting the results to the stakeholder, that is kind of usually tackled with a dashboard or something like that. And the data collection process is usually tackled by something similar to funnels, so some service that aggregates marketing data in a centralized place. And then the modeling part, that is a smaller part.
Yeah, maybe shameful, plug here, because that's obviously one of the hypotheses why Funnel decided to buy Atriba, because it makes so much sense to get the data hub and marketing ETL part solved, and then combine it with state-of-the-art measurement. That's obviously something that these open source solutions, how would they be able to solve this? Of course not, right? So that's very obvious. So of course people can use Funnel Data Hub in isolation without funnel measurement or Adverity, Supermetrics, all of these tools, or build their own API connections, but they have to do it to even be close to productionizing an MMM solution based on Robyn or the likes.
And some people want to productionize. Some people want to have that running every week, every day, every quarter, whatever, in a regular, more or less automated fashion.
Yeah.
For some people, it might be cool to get a read once per year, which was like kind of the standard operating procedure for marketing mix modeling for many decades actually.
Yes.
And if you want to do that, you might be completely fine actually just downloading, installing one of those packages, get a data dump every now and then, run it in a notebook locally, pull out a few plots, make a presentation, completely fine. If you have the needs of getting that updated on a more frequent basis, probably you need to invest in pipelining. You need to invest in a stable ETL pipeline, kind of glue that together with the modeling framework chosen, which can be Meridian, which can be Lightweight, which can be Pymc, Robyn, or something else entirely. And then kind of also glue that together with some form of results exploration, visualization, dashboarding functionality. And when you get to that stage, you might want to reconsider if downloading the package really saved you so much money and investment when comparing to just choosing a vendor, because that needs different skill sets. You're gonna be needing a data scientist working full time on that. You're gonna be needing a data engineer probably as well, at least part time, and it's gonna take a few months. So you can easily kind of invest a couple of $100,000 even in getting the free solution up and running.
Yeah. Maybe we don't have that often that somebody actually comments live on LinkedIn. And Philipp Freitag, the data baron, is on there. Hi, Philipp. Nice to see you, so to say. He was also on one of our podcasts in the past. I definitely want to have you maybe explain a bit about the 3 different open source solutions and the specifics, like Bayesian frequentist, and what kind of we can also take out of it, which is what are specific features of the solution. But let's first maybe answer Philipp's question. He has MMM every day. Who, where, and honestly, why? I love that question. I love these sort of discussions on this podcast. That's why we also try to do it live. Or we do it live because we want to interact with the audience. So all of our clients, or many of our clients, actually use the solution in a day-to-day basis, because we provide the updates on a daily basis and then also be able to break them down on a campaign level through the triangulation approach. So clients actually use it in an operative manner to really optimize their marketing on a day-to-day basis. So that's happening, and I think it's great. But of course, also you could ask yourself, if you use MMM more on a tactical to strategical decision-making level, then of course you don't need to look at the numbers on a day-to-day basis, but it's possible. And we actually do it based also on the data that's coming through Funnels Data Hub into the solution.
Yeah, I would also agree here that the whole triangulation thing, that is really what we want daily, right?
Yes.
So we want to break down MMM insights to the campaign level on a daily basis.
Yeah, you don't need to look into saturation curves and ad stock
exactly.
effects
we don't
on a daily
really
level.
want to refit
correct.
the saturation curves or find a new ad stock parameter based on an additional day of data, Philipp. So it's more really for getting the whole process to update the overall conversions, update the campaign level information, break down the MMM credit onto the campaign level based on the most recent data, more for the tactical operational optimizations.
Yes.
Like redoing the whole MMM. No, I agree. That's not something that you want to do on a daily basis. Otherwise, you're gonna get crazy.
Yeah. So let's maybe have a quick overview of the specifics of these 3 open source solutions that we kind of plan to discuss here. So, I mean, we probably shouldn't dive too deep into the Bayesian versus frequentist discussion, but maybe you can give a quick overview. And one thing that I'd love you to touch upon is this thing that Meridian uses reach and frequency also, or includes reach and frequency instead of just numbers of impressions. What could be the benefit of that? Because I'm asking this question because usually kind of best practice in MMM is using only the spend or the cost as the input variable.
Yeah.
Where could this be useful?
I think there are just
that?
different schools of thought. So from a modeling perspective, I think it can make a lot of sense to use the reach and the frequency to kind of get a better idea of what was the exposure actually like. And sometimes you get let's say you get a discount. So you buy the same reach for like 20% less. Then it might be more accurate just from a modeling perspective to include the rather work based on reach than based on spend. On the other hand, the counter argument to that is, all right, okay, actually, if I get a discount, the effectiveness per impression stays the same. Then actually my effectiveness per dollar just increased big time, right? So what we want to do is we want to build a relationship straight from investment to outcome, because that's what we ultimately want to do. Is we ultimately want to tell you how to reallocate your budget, right? That's why we work with spend, but we see a lot of merit in the other approach as well. Different schools of thought, slightly different objectives, and I'm always happy to discuss on an individual basis, like if we should change that. Also on a client per client or project per project basis. But for now, I'm still in the spend camp, and no one has me truly convinced otherwise yet.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
please come forward and try to convince me. I'd be happy to change my mind eventually.
One difficulty I see was the reach variable is that it's maybe easy for Google to get this, and they even say this in the documentation if you read it up, that it's really crucial to get unique users kind of that you reach, and that's extremely difficult.
How are you gonna get that for TV, right?
And how do you get it for like DSPs that you work with and other display channels where you don't have any control of where this data is coming from and how it's being calculated, right? You don't want to be depending on how a specific ad platform defines unique user or versus another one, and then getting that right over the course of, let's say, 2 months instead of just 1 month. You might have your unique, views or unique users per month, but then getting that right over 2 months can be extremely challenging, I would estimate. And that's different from cost, right? Spend data, like €1 you invested there is
€1 is a euro aside from inflation, obviously,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So that's a more comparable unit, at least in my view. And again, happy to take that up. If I'm happy to change my mind, but so far nobody has been able to.
Yeah. Cool. Then maybe including reach and frequency. I mean, for the ad platforms itself, it's probably easy to integrate that data point for Meta, looking at their own reach. But how is Meta good at, understanding Google's reach, for example, making comparable? That can be challenging.
Try to do that for an out-of-home campaign. That's going to be quite difficult, I guess.
There's nothing like unique reach that you can include there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So then maybe from your data science perspective, what are the other specific features of these 3 solutions and which you find particularly interesting?
Yeah, so I think it's really, really cool how Robyn introduced this whole paradigm of multi-objective optimization in order to get something akin, but not exactly the same, but something akin to utilizing Bayesian priors into a frequencies framework. My opinion is that this is a super intuitive approach because there are going to be a lot of transformations always in the marketing mix model. So just putting a prior on a coefficient may not always have the desired impact, whereas calculating the distance to the true attribution, which Robyn does, I think that's a very intuitive and very nice and elegant approach. I also love how they utilize their own gradient-free optimization framework. So kind of building up on the work of other teams at Meta that I really liked. Pymc-Marketing, I follow them a lot. So I love their approach on time-varying efficiency, time-varying intercepts, time-varying stuff in general. Really like that. Lots of data based on the Bayesian framework. And I think they're actually really advanced in that. I haven't had so much time to play with Meridian. I think they also do some time-varying things there, like at least a time-varying trend and intercept and all of that. But not so sure how that exactly compares to Pymc-Marketing yet, but I think we can all rest assured that the guys at Google know how to develop software. So that's probably also going to be a pretty good and pretty advanced piece of software there.
Yeah. Just one other open source software that we haven't mentioned yet is Orbit.
Orbit,
Uber's Orbit, yeah.
Orbit is also a great piece of software, and that's something what I mentioned in the beginning. Some people consider that marketing mix modeling software, and the original Orbit paper was focused on marketing mix modeling. We also have quite a few things that are really useful if you do marketing mix modeling in Orbit. However, I wouldn't consider it marketing mix modeling software because it does not handle saturation, ad stock, and it's not a packaged one-stop shop type of thing for marketing mix modeling. Instead, it is a general framework for running time-varying coefficient models, and that it does, my opinion, really well. So we also use it a lot inside our own stack. So really, really nice work on that one as well. And I think I said that was my favorite marketing mix modeling paper in 2021. Probably also was my favorite going beyond.
Okay.
It still is. I really like that paper. We can also put that in the comments.
Maybe you'll manage to invite someone from that team. Last week we had someone from Uber here, or an alumni of Uber. One thing that I wanted to touch upon, I know your team has done some amazing work. So you mentioned that you haven't, put your hands on Meridian yourself, but your team has had the chance to work with Meridian even before it was publicly released now, and done this sort of simulation comparison. And we cannot disclose too much about it, of course, because it's not a scientific work. But just coming back to these dangers of just applying these models, and I mean potentially also coming up with wrong insights or flawed insights if they haven't been validated by an expert. And of course, we don't want to go down the route, saying that you need to work within SaaS vendors such as Funnel or with consultants to get MMM right. But you need to have some data science understanding in working with these solutions to also understand the limitations and potential, to be honest, right? Because you cannot understand the potential without understanding the limitations.
Exactly. So what I would always encourage anyone, if they have a new shiny tool for marketing mix modeling or for general purpose causal inference that they want to try out, simulate a few data points, simulate the data set where you know the ground truth, and simulate a few. Well, start simple, of course, but simulate a few challenges. Like I think one of the biggest challenges in marketing mix modeling is the strong multicollinearity in input variables, and simulate that and see how well your package of choice can recover that, and then you get a better idea of how you also need to input the data into the model in order to make the most of it,
and how you need to tweak the model, right?
Exactly, how you need to tweak the model, how you need to tweak the data. So don't blindly run real data through it and trust the results. And first of all, maybe start with simulated data where you know the ground truth, and then work backwards from there.
So simulated data, meaning you kind of simulate some spends for different marketing channels. I mean, it doesn't need to be simulated. It could just be your actual marketing spend. And then how you envision how it impacts your conversions and your revenue. And then multicollinearity, you could, for example, simulate by having a strong correlation between, let's say, spend on Facebook prospecting campaigns or TV, and then increasing or very correlated SEA brand spend. Something like that.
So probably the laziest way to simulate marketing mix modeling data is take your actual spends and rest assured that there will be correlations in there, and just make up some coefficients for them and a saturation parameter, and then simulate, so to say, the conversions based on that. And then that's a lazy way to do it, and then see how well the chosen package can recover that, and then you see where the challenges lie.
Yeah, and in the standard packages, without tweaking them or having a consultant to look at this, there can be some really huge surprises there. That's maybe just one thing that I would like to mention and caution everybody about it. But I think the simulation approach is exactly right to find out which of these packages can be used in a good way. Great. So we almost at the end of the 30 minutes. We lost a bit of time at the beginning with tweaking our sound here, but that's all good, I guess. So anything else that we should mention or discuss? I guess we'll always touch upon the open source topic in other upcoming shows again, and hopefully invite people from Pymc soon again, and Meta and Google as well. But any other things that you'd like to mention?
I just would say, like, these packages are really, really good for the industry as a whole, for everyone that uses them, that knows how to use them, and we always have to be mindful of the true cost, the true total cost of ownership when we decide to utilize an open source solution.
Yes, great. Okay, that's a great conclusion, I think. So for everyone listening, thanks a lot for paying attention and joining us here. We'd like to conclude here, and for the next week, I think we should also have Dr. Tim Wiegels back on the show. And for everyone not having subscribed to our YouTube, Spotify channels or to our podcast overall, please feel free to do so. And then also, if you have some suggestions for future guests, just feel free to put them in the comments on LinkedIn. And with that, I'd like to say thanks a lot for being here and looking forward to see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.